So this is our payer dashboard. So as you log in, you see all these menu options on the left. You see all this information on the main dashboard. Here on the upper right, there is your balance. It works on a good funds model. So any transactions that we're going to use for payouts, we're going to need to pre-fund an account that we create. And this is your pre-fund balance here. And as you make payouts from it, the transactions will simply debit out of that. There's a bunch of different options here on the left. We're going to focus on just kind of three main ones. We're going to focus on the ledger as the first view. Basically, it'll function just like your bank account or your checking account. It shows your debits and your credits. Accounting-wise, is a big picture for reconciliation purposes and things like that. So as you can see here, we've got a running balance. We've got debits. There are no credits in the last 10, but when there are credits, it'll show here as well. And then each transaction shows as a ledger entry, and you can simply click on the description to dive into what makes up that transaction. So we'll click on this, and it'll show what comes into our second tab that I'd like to talk about here on the left. Is it defaults to this transactions tab. And this shows simply a list of all the transactions that we have. There's different types of transactions here. So let me take a pause in this scenario real quick to explain the different types. So our system has its own internal wallet that you can use for payouts. For example, this first person here, Ron Pemberley, you'll see a transaction type of load. And this is loading $200 into Ron's wallet that exists in the platform. Ron would then be able to log in and withdraw his funds, in whatever manner he chooses. And I'll show you that part when we get to the Payee demo. And so you'll see all these are load transaction types. They're loading into a wallet. It also has a functionality of simply bypassing our internal wallet and sending the transactions directly to Ron's bank account. If that were the case, you would see a transaction type of next day bank transfer or cryptocurrency wallet payment or whatever the scenario may be. So transactions here, this is the second main tab I wanted to talk about. You'll see there's filters here on the upper right. There's a search transactions bar. And then from here, obviously, we can dive deeper into a particular payee's history. So if we wanted to look at Ron, and this is going to bring up what we call our Payee profile page. And here we're going to have all of Ron's information. And it's going to be like his internal user ID number. Here we have a section for all of his personal information. Here we show his available funds, right? So this is his wallet balance. Any notes will appear here. They're not visible to Ron. And then down at the bottom, we have transaction history. This shows, for example, this load that we talked about here. Basically, any type of transaction that gets charged to or credited to Ron appears here in the transaction history. And again, can be going back to the transactions tab. All of the transactions for the customer will appear here. The third one I wanted to mention is similar to transactions, but it's just payees. And this is a list of simply all the payees that are registered. For example, Janice will only show up once here in payees, but if she has 50 transactions, she'll show up 50 times in the transactions tab. I had mentioned the manual payout option as well, if there's not an API integration. That is handled under this batches tab here on the left. And what this is, it's basically a file upload for payouts. You can download a sample file here in the upper right. I won't dive into all the specifics on the file itself here. Basically, it's an Excel file with all of the information that is needed to issue a load or to issue a payout to a person. Basically, you would complete that spreadsheet. Each row is going to be a separate transaction or a separate load, depending on how you want to do it. If you wanted to load money just to Chris, you could do one line with Chris's information and upload the file. If you had 1,000 people you wanted to pay, you could do it in one row for each of your 1,000 people and upload that file. You can simply just drag and drop it into this upload square here at the top. It processes automatically, and then the results appear down here in the process batches section, where it shows, okay, Chris uploaded a file. There were 24 total transactions. Basically, 2 of them had errors on them, so we uploaded 22 of them for a total amount of $6,200. On the right here, there's a little download button you would simply download a version of the exact same file that you uploaded, except it would be color coded with green rows being successful, red rows showing any errors, and then there'd be a brand new column with an error description for any of the errored transactions, allowing you to troubleshoot or correct. But it's always going to entail some manual work, to make sure that sheet is formatted correctly, and there's just a potential for typos or potential for errors and stuff in this. So I always encourage people to, if possible, to go with the API integration. That's kind of the main hits on the dashboard. I mean, obviously there's other sections here. Cancellations will pull up a list of all the canceled transactions. Manage users is kind of an admin tab where you can add or revoke privileges for different admins. Your user profile, you can click on taxes to get kind of a 1099 style report for earnings for the year or for a period or anything like that. So those are the main uses on the dashboard itself.